Welcome in, everyone. Whether you are a diehard sports fanatic who just lives and breathes the analytics of the game, or you're simply someone who loves systems, efficiency, and the endless pursuit of continuous improvement, you're going to want to pull up a chair for this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today's topic is an absolute gold mine. Okay, let's unpack this. We have a stack of highly detailed AI-generated coaching insights sitting right here in front of us.
And they are dense.
Oh, incredibly dense. These aren't just your standard box scores.
Yeah.
What we are looking at is an artificial intelligence that has consumed and analyzed the granular performance data from 4 incredibly intense basketball games. And just to keep things spicy, we also have the official league disciplinary report, which contains some wild behind-the-scenes administrative drama that completely reframes the raw numbers.
It really does. And I think that's what makes this particular deep dive so compelling for you listening right now. We aren't just reading off who put the ball in the hoop. We are deciphering what these advanced analytics actually tell us about the core mechanics of teamwork, the true nature of efficiency, and the stark difference between simply working hard and strategically working smart.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, basketball is ultimately a closed system of resource management. You have a limited number of possessions, a limited amount of time on the shot clock, and 5 moving pieces on the floor that have to synchronize perfectly.
Right. It's a zero-sum environment for efficiency.
Precisely. A single statistic in a vacuum, like rebounding, doesn't actually mean much without looking at the corresponding shooting efficiency and turnover rate. And what is so fascinating about the source material we are diving into today is that the AI isn't just handing out letter grades to these teams. It is actively prescribing actionable, specific strategies.
It's giving them the answers to the test.
Right. It's looking at a team's failure to protect the rim and prescribing specific help side rotation drills. It's identifying stagnant offenses and demanding drive and kick sequences. These are rapid feedback loops, and they perfectly mirror the feedback loops we try to build in business, in team management, and just in our daily lives.
I love that framing. It's a diagnostic tool, but it's also a prescription pad.
Mm.
But before we get to the X's and O's, before we even step onto the digital hardwood to look at these AI insights, we have to talk about the glaring anomalies in these scorecards.
Off-court stuff.
Yeah, the off-court drama, because for all the pristine logic of artificial intelligence, basketball is still governed by flawed human beings and bureaucratic systems.
It is the ultimate collision of pristine data and chaotic reality. The AI can map out the perfect defensive set, but it can't account for someone forgetting to bring the right color jersey to the arena.
Exactly. So I'm looking at the league disciplinary review right now,
Yeah.
and it is just a mess of uniform and roster violations. The Team Bisons got hit with one. Hawaii got hit with one. But the most mind-blowing stat of this entire deep dive isn't a shooting percentage or an offensive rating. It's what happened to the Team ECH.
Oh, this is wild.
Let me set the stage for you. The final score of the first game we're looking at is ECH 64, Raptors 59. A solid 5-point victory for ECH.
Sounds normal.
Right. But then you look at the administrative asterisk. ECH took a 20-point penalty for uniform and roster violations. 20 points. And they still won the basketball game.
It is genuinely staggering when you break down the math of what happened on that court. This wasn't a close game that got slightly adjusted by a minor technicality. If ECH finished with an official score of 64 points after absorbing a 20-point administrative deduction, that means they actually scored 84 points against the Raptors' 59 during the actual flow of play.
Which is a blowout.
A total blowout. They beat them by 25 points, fundamentally. They completely dismantled the opposing team, only to have it reduced to a narrow 5-point win by a clipboard error before the tip-off even happened.
But hold on, let's think about the psychology of that for a second. If you know you are starting the game in a 20-point hole because of a paperwork error, doesn't that completely change your risk profile?
Oh, completely.
I would imagine most teams would panic. They would start jacking up quick shots, trying to get it all back in the first quarter. The fact that ECH didn't do that they just methodically chipped away at a 20-point phantom deficit, is a massive testament to their internal culture.
That is the exact right question to ask. In any complex system, a massive external shock usually causes the agents within that system to abandon their protocols.
Like a bank run.
Yes. In finance, a market shock causes panic selling. In basketball, a 20-point deficit usually causes isolation basketball and rush decisions. The fact that ECH maintained their structural integrity is why they won. And what's fascinating here is the contrast in how teams handle that kind of administrative chaos.
Because they weren't the only ones.
Right. Because ECH wasn't the only team to face the wrath of the league's dress code. The Bisons took a uniform penalty as well, a 5-point deduction, in their game against Royale 5150. But unlike ECH, the Bisons couldn't overcome it. They lost 43-60.
Now, obviously, 5 points didn't mathematically decide that game for the Bisons.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost by 17 on the official scoreboard.
Yeah.
But it speaks to the margin of error.
Exactly. When you are a highly efficient machine like ECH, you have built up a massive margin of safety. You can afford to absorb a huge shock to the system. When your system is already fragile, like the Bisons, even a minor penalty compounds your failure.
It breaks you.
Yeah. The Bisons were already struggling to generate points, so spotting the opponent 5 points before the clock even starts is a psychological death sentence.
And it wasn't just uniform violations causing chaos across the league. The disciplinary report mentions the BBQ Chicken versus Grizzlies game, noting an official review regarding a referee error on substitutions.
Just chaos everywhere.
And looming over all of this is a note about ECH's multiple violations being, quote, pending review and discussion with Commissioner Francis. Commissioner Francis sounds like he has a very busy docket this week.
It really highlights the friction of the real world. No matter how perfectly the AI can tell you to run an off-ball screen, you are still operating within an environment governed by administrative rules, substitution limits, and human referee errors.
You can't escape the human element.
You can't. You have to engineer your performance to be so robust that it can survive inevitable bureaucratic friction. ECH essentially built a 25-point margin of safety to survive a 20-point administrative disaster.
Okay, so let's actually look at how ECH built that margin of safety. Let's pivot to the ECH versus Raptors matchup and look at the AI coaching insights to figure out how ECH survived that massive deduction. Because their offense was something to behold.
It was a clinic.
Listen to these data points. ECH shot 47.8% from the field. They hit 32 of their 67 shots. From three-point range, they were an elite 38.5%, hitting 10 of 26. But here's the number that jumps off the page. On their 32 made shots, they recorded 26 assists.
An 81% assist rate.
That's absurd.
For you listening, we aren't just talking about players being willing to pass the ball. In modern analytics, an 81% assist rate is an indicator of structural gravity.
Structural gravity, I like that.
It tells us that ECH's offensive system is warping the defense so severely that the help side rotations are consistently a step too late, resulting in an uncontested catch and shoot. It means they aren't relying on one star player to break down a defender in isolation. They have a system where the ball is constantly moving faster than the defensive shell can adjust.
Because the ball always moves faster than the man.
Exactly. The AI praised their excellent ball movement and cohesive offensive sets, and it's easy to see why. When the ball finds the open man on over 8 out of 10 possessions, you become statistically inevitable.
But let me play devil's advocate here. Is an 81% assist rate always a good thing? Couldn't it imply that players are passing up good open shots because they're overcommitted to the system? You know, the classic passing up a good shot for a great shot trap that ends up in a shot clock violation?
That's a very fair critique of overpassing, but the shooting percentages suggest that wasn't the case here. If they were overpassing and ending up with grenade possessions at the end of the shot clock, you wouldn't see them shooting nearly 48% from the field and 38% from three.
True.
Those percentages indicate they were finding the right shot and rhythm. They were converting. It's like a perfectly synchronized assembly line where the ball, is moving seamlessly to the highest value endpoint.
That makes sense. But, and this is why the AI analysis is so valuable, it didn't just pat ECH on the back for their beautiful ball movement.
It found the vulnerabilities.
You always find something. Right. Despite outscoring the Raptors by 25 points on the floor, ECH only managed 10 offensive rebounds compared to the Raptors' 15. They only got at the free throw line for 12 attempts, and they only recorded a single block on defense.
A single block.
Yeah. The AI looked at this dominant team and immediately prescribed crash the glass drills and drive and kick actions to force contact and get to the line.
Which is a brilliant intervention by the AI because it prevents systemic complacency.
Complacency is the killer of great teams.
Exactly. The AI recognizes that shooting 48% from the field covers up a multitude of process errors. But what happens on a night when the jump shots aren't falling? If ECH plays a team with elite perimeter defense and their shooting percentage drops to 38%, suddenly that lack of offensive rebounding and low free throw generation becomes fatal.
They have no safety net.
Right. They aren't generating cheap points. The AI is essentially telling them your ceiling is incredibly high because of your passing, but your floor is much lower than it should be. You need to manufacture easier points by drawing contact and crashing the glass so you don't have to rely purely on shot making.
I see. It's about diversifying your offensive portfolio. You can't just rely on the high-yield tech stocks of three-point shooting. You need the blue-chip dividend stability of free throws and offensive putbacks.
That is exactly it. And the inverse of that dynamic is perfectly demonstrated by their opponent in this game, the Raptors. If ECH is a masterclass in efficiency, covering up a lack of raw grit, the Raptors are the exact opposite. Let's look at the Raptors data because it introduces what I think is one of the most vital concepts for anyone listening right now to apply to their own life.
The Raptors are a statistical paradox. They were absolute monsters on the boards. They grabbed 40 total rebounds, and 15 of those were offensive rebounds, which is fantastic.
Incredible effort.
They were also highly clutch at the free throw line, shooting 83.3%. The AI actively praises their physical effort and their hustle, but they lost because while they were crashing the glass beautifully, they shot terribly from the floor. 34.8% overall, 22.2% from deep, and they committed 15 turnovers.
So if you are looking at your own metrics in whatever field you operate in, you have to ask yourself, how often do you put in massive, undeniable effort but get low returns?
Oh man, that hits close to home for a lot of people.
The Raptors are the embodiment of hustle without execution. They outworked ECH on the glass. They fought for 15 extra possessions through sheer willpower. But what did they do with those hard-earned extra possessions? They threw the ball away 15 times and missed 43 shots. They were a flurry of activity with zero precision.
Hustle without execution. It reminds me of vanity metrics in the corporate world. You have a marketing department bragging about generating 1 million impressions or driving massive traffic to a website. That's the equivalent of the 15 offensive rebounds, right?
Absolutely.
It looks great on a slide deck, but if the website's conversion rate is 0, if nobody is actually buying the product, all that traffic is meaningless. You are just aggressively paddling a canoe that has a massive hole in the bottom.
That is the perfect analogy. And look at the AI's prescription for the Raptors. It doesn't tell them to try harder. It doesn't say they need more grit. It tells them to simplify.
Work smarter, not harder.
Precisely. It says simplify late clock actions and integrate more off-ball screens. The Raptors had 15 assists on 23 made shots, which the AI calculates as a 0.65 ratio. That's not terrible in a vacuum, but compared to ECH's 81%, it shows that the Raptors are working entirely too hard for their shot.
They're grinding gears.
Yes, the AI is trying to engineer easier decisions for them so that their incredible physical effort actually translates into points on the board rather than just exhausting themselves for a 34% yield.
But surely that relentless physicality has some value, doesn't it? I mean, if you are constantly crashing the glass and grabbing 15 offensive boards, aren't you physically and mentally wearing down the opponent? Doesn't the sheer volume of second-chance opportunities eventually break a defense?
It would if those second-chance opportunities were converted. But when you grab an offensive rebound and immediately miss the putback or turn the ball over, you aren't demoralizing the defense, you are demoralizing yourself.
Ah, that's a great point. It's deflating.
Furthermore, constantly crashing the glass with multiple players compromises your transition defense. If you send 3 guys to the offensive boards and they don't secure the ball, the other team is already running the other way with a numerical advantage. So that hustle actually becomes a systemic liability if it isn't paired with execution.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Hustle is only a multiplier if the baseline efficiency is greater than 0. Here's where it gets really interesting. If we want to talk about the tragedy of inefficiency, we have to look at Game 2. This is Beats by Buffaloes, who we will call BBB, going up against Haraya.
BBB was a machine in this one.
BBB won this game 74-54, a clean 20-point blowout. No administrative penalties required, just a pure disparity in skill and system.
BBB's performance here is the definition of two-way dominance.
Let's run through the numbers. BBB shot 50% from the field overall, but their two-point shooting is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
A massive 65%.
Wow.
They grabbed 34 rebounds, and on the defensive end, they racked up 13 steals.
If we break down what a 65% two-point shooting percentage actually means on a basketball court, it tells us everything about their shot selection and their spatial awareness. You don't shoot 65% by taking contested off-balance fadeaways over 2 defenders.
Right, you're not getting lucky 65% of the time.
No. You shoot 65% by generating layups, dunks, and wide-open 15-footers. It means BBB was manipulating Haraya's defensive shell, breaking down their rotations and only pulling the trigger when the mathematical odds were overwhelmingly in their favor.
It's surgical.
Pair that offensive patience with 13 steals on the other end. 13 steals implies a terrifying level of defensive anticipation. They weren't just reacting to Haraya, they were predicting them, stepping into passing lanes and instantly turning defense into high-percentage offense.
But even in a 20-point blowout, the AI finds a glaring flaw. BBB's Achilles heel was the free throw line. They shot an abysmal 33% from the stripe.
That's rough.
They only made 4 out of 12 free throws. And they recorded 0 blocks for the entire game.
Right.
And let me challenge the AI here for a second. Does the 0 blocks stat really matter if you are logging 13 steals? If you are disrupting the perimeter that effectively, maybe you don't need rim protection.
It's a fair point regarding their overall defensive impact, but the AI is looking at structural completeness. Steals are often the result of gambling on the perimeter. When those gambles pay off, you look brilliant. But when a smart team figures out your timing and backcuts you, they get a free lane to the basket.
And if there's no shot blocker waiting.
Exactly. If you have 0 rim protection, 0 blocks, you have no secondary line of defense when your perimeter gambles fail. The AI wants layered defense. But the much bigger issue the AI flags is the 33% free throw shooting.
Yeah, 4 for 12 is just leaving money on the table.
Those missed free throws are what analytics departments call empty calories. Think about the sequence of events. You do all the hard work to execute your offensive set. You beat your defender, you force the defense into an illegal action, and the referee blows the whistle. You have essentially won the possession.
You did your job.
Right. The reward is completely uncontested shots from 15 feet away with the clock stopped, and then you miss them. Leaving points on the board like that is a cardinal sin.
So what does the AI tell them to do?
The AI explicitly recommends incorporating pressure FT routines and tracking progress in practice. Because against a flawed team like Haraya, you can afford to leave 8 free points on the board. But against a machine like ECH, those empty calories will cost you the game.
Right. You can't build a sustainable business model on the assumption that your competitors will always be worse than you. You have to optimize your own internal processes. And speaking of flawed internal processes, let's look at the team BBB. Dismantled Haraya.
This is a tough one to look at.
If BBB was a surgical instrument, Haraya was a complete structural collapse. Listen to this stat line because it might be the most painful one in the entire stack of sources. Haraya committed 20 turnovers, and they recorded a grand total of 4 assists.
4 assists for an entire team over the course of a full-length basketball game.
I mean, statistically, how does that even happen? Do they just refuse to pass the ball? How do 5 guys share a court for that long and only directly facilitate a basket for a teammate 4 times?
It happens when a team fully succumbs to the danger of isolation-heavy sets. When a team only logs 4 assists, it indicates that nearly every single basket they scored was the result of a player catching the ball, putting their head down, ignoring their teammates, and trying to beat their defender one-on-one.
It's hero ball.
It is hero ball in its purest, most destructive form. And that 4 assist metric perfectly explains the 20 turnovers.
Because they become entirely predictable.
Exactly. When you play isolation basketball, the defense doesn't have to process complex information. They know the ball handler isn't looking to pass, so what do? They collapse the floor. They swarm the ball handler, they dig into the dribble, and because the offensive player has tunnel vision, they easily strip the ball or force a bad pass.
So that feeds right into BBB's 13 steals.
Precisely. BBB got 13 steals largely because Haraya kept trying to dribble through double teams instead of moving the ball to the open man.
It's the ultimate anti-teamwork metric. And yet, the AI highlights some bright spots for Haraya. It points out key individual performances. Spencer Weymouth put up 15 points and 9 rebounds. Mark Mendoza added 12 points. So you have talent here. You have guys who can clearly play the game.
You do, and that's what makes the analytics so tragic. Even in a failing, broken system, individual talent will still occasionally shine through. Weymouth and Mendoza were clearly working hard to get those numbers, but imagine what they could do if the system actually supported them.
It would be night and day.
The AI recognizes this untapped potential. It notes their aggressive offensive rebounding, 14 offensive boards, and it explicitly prescribes motion offense principles, cutting actions, and read and react drills. The AI is desperately trying to tell Haraya, you have the raw materials, you have players who can score and rebound, but you have to stop trying to do it alone.
You need a framework.
You need a system that forces the defense to make decisions, rather than letting them just sit back and guard one guy at a time.
It's the classic trap of the highly skilled individual contributor in a corporate setting who refuses to delegate or collaborate. They might hit their personal KPIs, like Weymouth getting his 15 points, but the department as a whole misses its targets, turns the ball over 20 times, and loses the account. The system fails even if the individual succeeds.
Exactly. A system of one is always vulnerable to a coordinated system of five.
Okay, we are moving on to game 3. If Haraya showed us the tragedy of individual talent trapped in a broken system, the Bisons take that tragedy a step further. They show us what happens when a team possesses unbelievable physical dominance but entirely lacks the mechanical precision to weaponize it. This is the Bisons versus Royale 5150.
Oh, the rebounding illusion. This game is a fascinating case study in how raw statistics can lie to you if you don't contextualize them.
Completely. So remember earlier, the Bisons got that 5-point uniform penalty.
Yeah.
But let's separate the administrative penalty and look at what they actually did on the court. The Bisons grabbed an incredible 56 total rebounds. 56, and 21 of those were offensive rebounds.
That is a staggering number of rebounds.
Now, if someone just hands you a piece of paper that says, Team A got 21 offensive rebounds, you assume Team A won in a blowout. You get 21 extra possessions. You crush the opponent. But the Bisons only scored 43 points in the entire game. How do you grab 56 rebounds and only score 43 points?
You have to miss a lot of shots.
A lot. They shot 27.6% from the field. They went 21 for 76. And from three, they shot 12.5%, hitting just 3 of 24 attempts.
It is almost mathematically difficult to shoot that poorly on that kind of volume. Let's unpack the reality of those 21 offensive rebounds. In a healthy basketball ecosystem, an offensive rebound is a backbreaker for the defense. It is a high-value second chance.
Right. It usually leads to an open look or a foul.
But for the Bisons, getting an offensive rebound wasn't a second chance. It was just a prolonged failure. They were rebounding their own misses only to throw the ball back up into heavy traffic and miss again. The AI perfectly diagnosed the root cause: poor shot selection and mechanics.
This breaks my brain a little bit. It's like spinning your tires in the mud. You have a massive engine, you're generating tons of horsepower, the wheels are spinning furiously, that's the 56 rebounds, but you have zero traction. You have zero forward momentum. But from a coaching perspective, how do you fix that? Do you tell them to stop rebounding?
No, you never tell a team to stop rebounding. You fix the input that is causing the need for so many rebounds. The AI's prescription for the Bisons is incredibly specific. It says to simplify the offense with early shot clock actions and emphasize catch-and-shoot drills and shot quality prioritization.
Shot quality prioritization, that's the magic phrase.
It is essentially telling them, stop throwing up garbage at the end of the shot clock. Run a designated play early in the possession, find a mathematically sound shot, and take it in rhythm.
Because a fundamentally bad shot is effectively a turnover. The Bisons took 76 shots. That's a massive amount of offensive volume. But because the quality of those shots was so historically low, the volume didn't matter. They were confusing activity with achievement. They thought because they were shooting and rebounding, they were playing well.
Exactly. And you have to contrast that massive chaotic inefficiency with the team that beat them, Royale 5150. Royale didn't need 56 rebounds because they actually made their shots the first time.
Right. Royale 5150 won this game 60-43. And their execution inside the arc was phenomenal. They shot 52.4% on two-pointers. They recorded 17 assists, which the AI notes gave them a 2.1 assist-to-turnover ratio. That is elite ball security and sharing.
And we really have to talk about the star power here, because while Haraya showed us that individual talent can't save a broken system, Royale 5150 showed us how a functional system can elevate a star player to absolute dominance. Obanenen put on a masterclass in the paint. He dropped 24 points on 10 of 21 shooting and pulled down 16 rebounds. He was the focal point, but he was supported beautifully by Camden Eskandari, who chipped in 13 points.
So they weren't just a one-man show.
No. The AI highlights this dynamic as having multiple players capable of creating offense, which relieves the pressure on any single individual and makes the defense's job infinitely harder.
But look at the rest of Royale's shot profile, because this is where I think the data gets really interesting. They won by 17 points. Their big man, Obinna is dominating inside, shooting over 50% on two-pointers. But Royale took 45 three-point attempts. 45.
That is way too many for this roster.
And they only made 26.7% of them. On top of that, they only shot 5 free throws all game. Why take 45 threes if your big man is feasting inside?
That is the ultimate question of modern basketball analytics. It is a classic symptom of a team falling in love with the perimeter while ignoring the structural reality of the game they are playing. Yes, Obinna was doing heavy lifting inside, but the rest of the team was settling.
They were just tossing it up.
Taking 45 three-point attempts, especially when you are only hitting 26% of them, means you are actively avoiding contact. You are taking the path of least resistance. You are bailing out the Bison's defense. The fact that they only generated 5 free throw attempts confirms it.
Wait, isn't the whole point of modern analytics that 3 is greater than 2? Aren't teams supposed to shoot a ton of threes?
Only if the expected value of those threes is higher than the alternative. The expected value of a 26.7% three-point shot is roughly zero point 0.8 points per possession. The expected value of a Benin shooting 50% from the floor, plus the high probability of him drawing a foul, is well over 1 point per possession.
The math favors the paint here.
The AI isn't being a traditionalist. It's looking at the specific kinetic reality of this specific game. It catches this inefficiency instantly. Its strategy recommendation is to cut down on contested threes, incorporate more driving kick actions, and importantly, team must attack the rim more and seek contact.
Seek contact. The AI is literally telling them to go pick a fight in the paint. It's saying, you're winning, you're moving the ball well, but you were playing too passively on the perimeter.
Sure.
Go get hit, go to the foul line, get the easy points.
Yes.
It mirrors the empty calories concept we talked about earlier. If you don't aggressively seek contact, you are forcing yourself to win purely through jump shots. And jump shots introduce massive variance into your system.
Exactly. The variance on jump shots is high. A drive to the rim that collapses the defense and results in a foul is a high-yield, low-variance play. The AI is trying to shift Royale 5150's risk profile to make their offense more robust and sustainable against better competition.
This brings us to the final game of our deep dive, Game 4. And I have to say, this team might have the best name in the entire league, BBQ Chicken.
It's a great name.
They faced off against the Grizzlies, and BBQ Chicken put on an absolute clinic in discipline. They won 62-45.
They really did. If ECH was the gold standard for ball movement, BBQ Chicken was the gold standard for ball security and decision-making under pressure.
Let's read the data points for BBQ Chicken. They shot 56% on two-pointers. They dominated the glass with 37 total rebounds, 15 of them offensive. But here's the stat of the game. They had 19 assists to only 7 turnovers.
What's fascinating here is that ratio. A 19-to-7 assist-to-turnover ratio is essentially the holy grail of offensive analytics. Consider what a turnover actually is. It is giving your opponent a live weapon without even forcing them to fire a shot.
It's the ultimate unforced error.
Exactly. To pass the ball creatively enough to generate 19 assisted baskets while only losing control of it 7 times over the course of an entire game means the team is making brilliant, calculated decisions. It means they deeply value possession of the basketball. They aren't making lazy passes. They aren't forcing the issue into crowded paint. They are systematically probing the defense, finding the structural weakness, and executing precisely.
And doing that against a Grizzlies team that secured 25 defensive rebounds is impressive. That means the Grizzlies were forcing misses, but BBQ Chicken simply refused to give them live ball turnovers. They made the Grizzlies earn every single possession.
They played a very clean game.
But, keeping with the theme of the day, BBQ Chicken had their flaws. They shot a dismal 12.5% from 3, and they only shot 52.9% from the free throw line.
Right. And here's where the AI's interconnected systems analysis really shines. It notes the incredibly poor three-point shooting and explicitly links it to their need for better drive and kick sets. The AI understands that a 12.5% three-point shooting night usually doesn't mean your players suddenly forgot the biomechanics of shooting a basketball.
It's a symptom, not the disease.
Yes. It usually means they are taking heavily contested, out-of-rhythm shots because the offense has grown stagnant.
So how does a drive and kick fix a shooting slump?
Because it alters the geometry of the defense. By having a player drive hard into the paint, you force the perimeter defenders to collapse inward to protect the rim. This creates rotational lag.
The defense is caught out of position.
When the ball handler then kicks the ball out to a shooter whose feet are already set on the perimeter, that shooter now has a clean line of sight and an extra half second to shoot before the defender can close out. You dramatically increase the quality of the look. The AI wants BBQ Chicken to use the threat of their dominant interior scoring, that 56% on two-pointers, to organically manufacture high-percentage three-point shots.
It's a perfect feedback loop. Use your proven strength to structurally fix your weakness. Now, let's look at the Grizzlies, who are on the wrong side of this 62-45 scoreline. The Grizzlies actually did some things really well on paper.
They had some bright spots.
They shot 75% from the free throw line. They secured those 25 defensive rebounds, which the AI notes showed solidarity in limiting opponent possessions. But they completely fell apart in the execution phase. They shot 32.6% from the field, committed 16 turnovers, and recorded exactly 0 blocks.
The AI's critique of the Grizzlies is very sharp. It highlights a lack of defensive disruption. They only recorded 4 steals and no blocks. When you play passive, reactionary defense against a highly disciplined team like BBQ Chicken, you are going to get carved up.
You're just letting them run their drills in a live game.
Passive defense allows a good offense to run their sets with 0 friction. The AI tells the Grizzlies they need to dramatically increase on-ball pressure, implement trap schemes, and reinforce contest timing. They need to inject chaos into the opponent's system.
But implementing trap schemes is incredibly risky. If you commit 2 defenders to the ball handler to set a trap, you are mathematically leaving someone else wide open. If BBQ Chicken's guards are smart enough to pass out of the trap, aren't the Grizzlies just giving up open layups? Why is the AI mathematically suggesting a strategy that compromises the defensive shell?
Because the AI calculates that the slow death they are currently dying is worse than the risk of the trap. It's a risk-reward calculation. Yes, a trap leaves someone open, but it forces the ball handler to make a rapid, panicked decision. If they make the wrong decision, you get a steal and a fast break.
And if you do nothing, you just slowly bleed out.
The Grizzlies chose to play it safe, to guard their own men without helping, and they died a slow 17-point death because BBQ Chicken was too comfortable. The 16 turnovers by the Grizzlies just compounded the issue. Every time they gave the ball away, BBQ Chicken capitalized.
It's like letting a chess grandmaster play without a clock. If you don't speed them up, if you don't disrupt their internal rhythm, they will calculate the perfect move every single time.
Exactly. You have to force the issue. You have to manufacture chaos when you're outmatched in a half-court setting.
Okay, we've got through the games, we've looked at the stats, we've debated the AI's prescriptions. Let's start synthesizing this. For you listening right now, taking all of this in, consider the overarching themes across all 4 of these matchups. Because this data isn't just a collection of random numbers. It tells a very specific, repeatable story about what drives success and what guarantees failure in any competitive environment. So what does this all actually mean?
I think we can distill this immense amount of data into 3 core takeaways that apply far beyond the basketball court. The first, incredibly clear takeaway is that ball security equals success. It is the defining metric separating the winners from the losers in this deep dive.
It's undeniable in the numbers.
You look at the losing teams. Haraya had 20 turnovers, the Grizzlies had 16, the Raptors had 15. Now look at the winning teams. BBQ Chicken only had 7 turnovers. ECH had an elite 81% assist rate. When you protect your assets, when you make deliberate, high-quality decisions with your resources, you win. When you are careless and give away your leverage, you lose.
Takeaway number 1, protect your resources. Takeaway number 2 is what we discussed earlier, the illusion of hustle. We saw this perfectly illustrated by the Bisons and the Raptors. The Bisons pulled down 56 rebounds. The Raptors grabbed 40. They dominated the hustle stats, but they both lost, and the Bisons lost horribly.
It's a harsh truth.
Dominating the glass or putting in 80-hour weeks at the office or grinding endlessly at a personal project means absolutely nothing if your underlying mechanics and efficiency are broken. If your baseline conversion rate is 0, multiplying it by 100 through sheer hustle still leaves you with 0.
That is the danger of vanity metrics. The Bison shooting 27% rendered their 56 rebounds completely irrelevant, and that leads directly to the third major takeaway, the empty calories of free throws, and conversely, the vital systemic importance of seeking contact.
We saw that across almost every game.
Almost every single team we analyzed today struggled to either get to the free throw line or convert when they got there. BBB shot 33%. Royale 5150 only took 5 attempts despite dominating inside. The Bisons only took 6 attempts. Proactively drawing fouls, getting to the line, and knocking down those high-percentage shots is the ultimate efficiency hack.
It just changes the math of the game.
It stops the clock, it rests your personnel, it puts the opponent in foul trouble, and it mathematically guarantees the highest yield scoring opportunity in the game.
It's about finding the path of highest return. Stop settling for contested 30-foot jumpers when you can drive the lane and get 2 free shots. Stop overcomplicating your workflow when there's a simpler, more direct method available. These AI insights are fascinating because they bridge the gap between human effort and statistical reality. They strip away the emotion of the game and show us the bare mechanical truth of what actually works.
And that actually brings me to a final thought, something I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over. We have just spent this deep dive analyzing how an artificial intelligence can perfectly diagnose a team's mechanical flaws. It can look at a 20 turnover game and exactly prescribe motion offense principles.
It's flawless logic.
It can see a team struggling from 3 and calculate precisely when they need to use a slip screen or a drive and kick action to alter the defense's geometry. If the analytical blueprint is becoming this perfect, this readily available, how long until human coaching is no longer about strategic adjustments at all?
Wow, that completely changes the job description.
Think about the implications. If the AI hands you the mathematically perfect strategy, the only variable left isn't the X's and O's. The only variable left is us.
The humans executing it.
Coaching becomes purely about managing human psychology, emotional buy-in, and resilience. Can a coach convince a stubborn player to actually execute the drive and kick instead of playing hero ball? Can a team maintain their composure and execute the AI's flawless strategy when they've just been slapped with a 20-point administrative penalty by Commissioner Francis? The strategic game is largely solved by the machines. The human element, the execution, is the final frontier.
The blueprint is flawless. The execution relies on our messy, emotional human reality. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go about your week, whether you're managing a team, working on a complex project, or just trying to navigate your daily systems, take a second to evaluate your own assisted turnover ratio. Are you protecting your resources? Are you avoiding the vanity metrics? And most importantly, are you seeking out the highest yield opportunities? Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.